And it's about the work I'm doing. It's not about me. It's the work that I'm able to do. It's making an impact. Today, I think too often people give up too easily. It gets hard, I make a change, right? In our personal lives, we do this. Somebody offends us, something's hard, a relationship is hard, we give up and we move on. I'd say it was probably more difficult for sure, being a female leader. I think oftentimes doors are closed. I think some of the success is certainly driven by my skills in listening.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to OncoDaily. Today on Onco Influencers, we are honored to host Julie Rose, President and Chief Executive Officer of Advanced Clinical, a global CRO. Welcome to OncoDaily. Thank you very much for having a time for us. And I'll just briefly introduce you, and then we'll go through the interview, right?
Hey, wonderful to be here.
Thank you. So Julie is a tenured executive leader responsible for all aspects of strategic planning, corporate alliances, sales and marketing, operations, financial management, and regulatory compliance for Advanced Clinical, and is a long-time active member of Healthcare Businesswomen's Association. She has been instrumental in leading the growth, profitability, and overall success of multiple companies, and has led positions in executive leadership and corporate officer roles, including at top 5 CRO. Her oversight of global functional areas focuses on innovative methods for reducing the time and cost within clinical trials. With over 25 years of clinical research experience, Julie has participated in fundraising, mergers, and acquisitions, authored many clinical research articles, and is a well-known industry speaker. She is a change management expert and industry thought leader who has successfully led multiple company integrations, implemented a variety of cutting-edge technologies and platforms, and served 6 years as board president for a nonprofit community group where she navigated a headquarter change twice and raised money through angel investors. Personally, Julie is a wife and mom for 4 grown children and graduate of University of Wisconsin-La Crosse with a bachelor's degree in nuclear medicine technology, and received her coveted HBA Chair Award in 2019 and Pharma Voice 100 Red Jacket Award in 2020. Very impressive, and I'm sure it's like very short, and if we go beyond, I mean, one program is not going to be enough for us. But thanks again for being with us today. What's your key of success for being a well-known leader, successful leader who has been in the field for several decades and successfully made a lot of changes?
Well, I think some of the success is certainly driven by my skills in listening. I'm a big believer in coming to the table to listen first and speak second, right? And so I think that when leaders show up and they are absorbing information before speaking, you get a much better outcome. And that's really been one of the pillars to my success.
Yeah, that's a wonderful answer. And by the way, I don't remember with whom, but recently we were discussing that majority of physicians, they don't listen, or we don't listen patients enough. So we tend to stop the patient at the first introduction after, I think it was 20 seconds or something like that, the first time we interrupt. So I think you made really a point, not just for the leaders, but I think for anyone else, right?
Yes, I think so often we know what we know well, and we want to contribute and help everybody, get on the same page we are. when you hold back your positions and you learn other people's perspectives and what they have to offer, then speak, I think you just get to a much better outcome from there.
Is it easy to be like, I mean, for me, like I'm a very impatient person. So is it easy for you to control that? How you develop that skill?
Well, first of all, I am not, I won't sit here today and tell you that I'm an expert at holding back. And it can be very difficult because oftentimes the room will look to you as maybe the most senior person in the room or the person who's supposed to have all the answers, and they will look to you and defer to you. Holding back is something that I constantly work on. And sometimes because I do have a need to want to help guide the discussion, I'll lean into it by asking a question to get the conversation started and off my plate. So if a topic's raised and people are looking for me to weigh in, I'll oftentimes say, it's a great question. I'd love to hear your thoughts first.
Yeah, wonderful way of doing that. Uh, as a woman leader in the field, um, did it help you, like being a woman? What do you think? Or there were more difficulties for women to kind of navigate through the leadership stairs?
I'd say it was probably more difficult for sure, being a female leader. I think oftentimes doors are closed. Um, Doors aren't even opened because you're a female leader. People just don't see you as being considered for the next role, especially the higher you go in leadership. Women also hold themselves back, right? It's research has been done that shows that in any kind of job, role, position, the criteria are set, and men have to meet about 50% of the criteria, and they're applying. They see themselves in that role as capable. Women are usually 75, 80%, 90% of the criteria before they feel like they qualify for that role and would even apply. So I think there's two things that go on as women grow in leadership positions. Number one is they're not even considered because they don't emulate some of the behaviors that we see and some of the skill sets that are looked at in men. And number two, they hold themselves back. They hold them, I don't qualify. I'm not going to go for that. Years ago, I'll tell you a story. Years ago, when I was first leaning into leadership, I was meeting with a colleague and we were talking about a new leadership position that opened up. And I said, I really want that job. Really want that. And my colleague said, who would ever know that? Who would ever know that you want that? You haven't made it known. Nobody's going to come knocking on your door. You have to lean into it. You have to advocate for yourself. And it was a lesson I learned early in my career about the importance of advocacy for yourself as a woman. Women tend to be a little bit more closed. I want to be approached. I want to be asked. I want you to show me the value that I bring to the company.
Yeah.
Very different from some of our male counterparts who is like, I can do that. That's for me. That's my job. I want that job. Active advocacy.
I'm a firm believer for woman leadership and a strong supporter I have always been. And as a father of two girls, I mean, I'm sure we have a lot to do on that regard. And I'm certain that with more women leaders, the world would be much better. Like less wars, less anger, right?
Well, I do think diversity in leadership, right? And in gender as well. Research has showed you get better outcomes. You get better outcomes. We need all to be at the table and all voices to be heard. I think female leaders bring different skill sets than our male counterparts, and together we have better results, and that's
Yeah.
proven in research. I think. Again, we're not there. Research is showing us that it'll take 130 plus years to get to gender balance, gender equity. And, as a female leader in the industry, I know we can do better. I know we can do better. We can turn this ship in a matter of years. It does not have to be 130 years, but it'll take all of us to be active and to really understand how to take actions to change in that direction of the ship.
Yeah. Wonderful. Coming back to the company, and then we'll again go the other way. Um, Advanced Clinical is a global CRO. Please, can you explore more? And what's something what differentiates Advanced Clinical from the other ones? And what you would like to share with the world about the company you are leading? I'm sure you are doing great things, but let's make it more visible.
Sure, great. Advanced Clinical is a global CRO where we do full service global outsourcing, running clinical trials on behalf of pharma and biotech companies. We also do FSP, so functional service offerings. Sometimes our clients don't need to outsource the entire trial, but they want to build a team that only does one of the functions. And then we also have contract staffing. So three business lines: full service CRO, functional service provider, and contract staffing. What makes us different is, first of all, we are a mid-tier 2 player, right? A tier 2 player. So our focus is not necessarily on large pharma. Our focus is on more of the mid-size, mid-market players in the industry that are doing cutting-edge science. Being that we are not one of the top large tier 1 CROs, we get very intimate with our customers. We're solving problems, we're strategizing together. And when you look at mid-sized pharma, biotechs, and smaller, that's the type of customer service they're looking for. Somebody who would be at the table, complement their own team, bring tools and solutions to be able to design better clinical trials and then execute them. So a big differentiator of who we are. The other big differentiator of who we are is that we are privately held. We have no venture capitalist money, no private equity ownership in the company. Single owner running profitable company. That enables us to do the right thing first. We don't run the company solely on the bottom line, what the numbers have to be financially. Financials are important to our business, helps us grow, reinvest, etc. But it isn't the leading end all be all of how we operate the business. We will put our employees, our customers, and the patients they serve first over profits. That enables us to continue to do the right thing and grow this business very, very successfully. So two major differentiators of who we are today.
Uh, uh, Thank you. Going further, it says in your bio that uh, you focus on innovative methods for reducing the time and cost within clinical trials. How you do it? What innovative methods you are using?
So a number of things we've done is we've dialed into the business a lot of business process automation. So often in clinical trials, the world is manual, right?
Yeah.
Go, produce data, collect data, analyze data, and we're working in Excel files. We're pushing data on email. We have operationalized our business to dial in business process automation so that as data is collected, it has one source of truth. It is pushed and pulled collectively across to different parties, to different systems, so that we're able to see the data timely, that we're able to know who's up, where in the process it is, and then drive the outcomes through business process automation. I would also say that much of what we're doing today in clinical trial focuses on upfront planning and design. So we have invested heavily into various feasibility tools that collectively the tool package enables us to design a trial that is more robust with patient voice included, with site voices included, as well as objective data. Those three components make us stronger in our recommendations back to our customers.
Thanks very much for sharing. And you are a change management expert. What's the most important in the change? And at Advanced Clinical, when you took the role, what were your initial changes? What was your focus?
So I think when you look at change, if I understood the question, what's the most important thing with change? And I think it is having a methodology for successful change management, right? We subscribe to the ProSci method of change management. So any big initiative goes through the ProSci methodology of change management. There's an ADKAR model that we follow: awareness, desire, knowledge, ability, and then reinforcement, right? The ADKAR model drives success in change. The other thing in change that's critically important and what drives success is management, leadership, knowing how to support any kind of change. So over the last 10 years, we've had significant change. We've expanded geographically, going into a new region: India, Latin America, Asia Pacific, all different cultures across the world, blending those cultures, understanding those regulatory infrastructures, those standards of care are very different region to region to region. If we all assume we're in the North America and everybody works like us, it will be a failed model. So geographic expansion is a huge opportunity that we've gone through and deployed change management. System technologies. Our systems and technologies are always changing. Doesn't matter if you're in pharma, CRO, at sites, etc. Technology, AI, how we use it, how we deploy it, to what degree, all is change management and has to follow a very structured process if you're going to maximize your return on the investment of the change. I think the second part of your question was challenges. Was that a question you asked me? Like, what challenges have we seen? Challenges that we've seen is when we have not followed the methodology. So when we just kind of go with it. I'll tell you, recently in our own business, our finance team, and we've got a strong finance team, but there was a group of individuals who decided that we would change out our travel and expense platform, and came, signed a contract, ready to deploy it. And all of a sudden, everybody's like, what? What are we doing? How will we do this? What about this? What about that? What about this? And all of a sudden, we had to like really stop and go back to the change management methodology. So you see it in systems, you see it in expansion, you see it in innovation, et cetera. You really have to be formalized in your strategy for change.
You touched so many important topics, but I'm going to focus on one of the things you said about the global expansion. Look, I mean, it's very well known that there is a global huge disparity for the clinical trials, right? So majority of clinical trials are done in the high-income countries. And even though the paradigm is changing a little bit towards, adding more clinical trials in LMIC, but in general, even that way, these clinical trials are only in selected countries. So overall, majority of world population is outside of this box, right? What's your opinion on the ground? I mean, you are working on the ground, organizing clinical trials globally, not just in the United States or in a developed country in Europe, but in Latin America, in India, etc. So what's your opinion? What should we do? And what we are not doing right now?
So I think the cost of clinical trials is still crazy amounts of money to develop a drug. The costs are just so exponentially high. And we, as a collective industry, have to continue to work on bringing the cost to do clinical trials down. Pharma companies, biotech companies have so many assets that could benefit patients around the world that are sitting on the shelves because we don't have the funding to put them through the process. Okay, so it's upon all of us to identify strategies, innovation, bring the cost of clinical trials down. When you bring the cost of clinical trials down, you can then strategically do more, study it bigger, broader, in various regions beyond what we're doing today. Today, it's a race against the clock to get it through the approval systems, and it's a race against the money. Time is money, and it is very costly. I think we've all heard it costs over $1.2 million a day to develop a drug, 7 to 10 years to develop a drug. Too much time, too much cost. So while we're racing to bring costs down and we're racing against the clock to get there sooner so we can start generating revenue as an industry and get it out to more people, we're minimizing the number of people we can test the product in. So it's an inherent flaw in the system driven by time and costs. So how do you get costs out of clinical trials? Well, one way is you can start taking costs out by doing simulated arms. What if we used a simulated arm to study a patient pool of placebo responders? There's no reason we can't do that. If today a clinical trial calls for a 1-to-1 randomization and needs 200 patients enrolled, well, imagine what happens when you only need 100 because you're going to simulate the placebo arm. What if we shared data and we're able to simulate from just natural EHR data sets the control arms? We could cut the trial costs significantly. Now, reaching more people, let's assume money and time isn't an issue. Well, some of the drivers to get clinical trials done in more regions than ever before right now is being driven by the diversity plans that are being required, certainly by the FDA, where the FDA has started to come out with guidelines and regulations that say you must match the demographic of the disease. So if this disease is in first generation Asians, we're going to go more into Asian countries to study that disease than ever before. Where in the past, we studied mostly Caucasian males. Drugs that are on the market today were predominantly tested in Caucasian males. That is being change from the regulatory bodies is driving that change to go further. I think some of the other things that are going to get clinical trials to people across the world in countries that aren't usually represented besides the mandate to match the demographic of the indication with the patients enrolled. The second thing is to bring clinical trials and make it easier for people to access the clinical trial. All of the work we're doing to decentralize clinical trials, where today, for the most part, patients have to go to a physician's site who's qualified to do research. We now have technologies that are allowing us to decentralize, where we can go to the patient, bring the trial to the patient, test the patient in their local setting, and then allow the data to be reviewed, to be guided by somebody who's centralized. Those two drivers in the industry today will help us bring trials to more and more patients across the world. What we still have to fix is this rush for time and money, the cost of doing a clinical trial.
And the cost is getting up and up. I remember it was, again, maybe 10 years ago, the ASCO 2015 or 14, when there was a presentation, like the presenter had to zoom out the slide to show the next slide, next rights of the cost, yearly cost for the drugs. So, it's like getting crazy and crazy. But if we go back 20 years, look at all these drugs which were, inventions. They changed the lives of millions of people. And they are cheap. They are cheap. So from the 1950s or like even before that, like someone invented antibiotics, right? Imagine if, let's say, Fleming would say, okay, let's put this way. What would happen? How the world would look like? I think I'm sure there is no one-way answer about this, but certainly there is the elephant in the room that the prices are getting like crazily high.
Yeah.
And this way, if a patient is not able to access the drug, what's the reason of this drug, right?
I agree. I agree fully. I think we've certainly gone from a world where drugs were tested in a one-size-fits-all, right? Every diabetes drug will be appropriate for you, me, people across the world in different cultures, different age groups, etc. One size fits all. And today we've gone more personalized medicines. So we've shrunk the population for the drug. And we've also wanted to, in our clinical trials and the way we're working, while the time to develop and the regulations to develop a drug have, and the costs have just skyrocketed, in general, we have also then limited our patient pools in this personalized medicine approach. And so we do have to navigate this world to figure out how do we take the costs out of research such that when a drug gets to market, it is accessible by many from a cost perspective. I think, again, some of the strategies that are underway should help this, right? Decentralizing clinical trials so you can get it to the right patients at the right time more quickly. I think using simulated data should be able to help us take some of the costs out of research and drug development. In the oncology space, one of the biggest things that, my personal opinion is that supply and demand is part of the challenge in developing oncology products today. The key opinion leaders doing research can only do so much research. Our cell manufacturing facilities that are qualified to do specialized protocols, client by client by client, to develop their drugs. We have waiting lines for cell therapy manufacturing. We've got some inherent costs, complexities that are building up, especially in the world of oncology, that is causing costs to go up and not down. And those are things we have to continue to solve for. How do we rationalize the supply and demand, whether it's CDMOs, whether it's physicians? I speak to investors periodically, and they said, we invest in these companies, these who have great assets, but they get in line. They get in line to get the patients, to get the site attention, to be able to get the cell manufacturing slots. We have to solve for that.
Thanks again. Another question. Who is your team?
Who's my team? My team.
Changing it.
Well, my team is a combination of our customers, and then our people that are located all over the world, right? And that combination, and our vendors, that combination of that team, if they're constantly focused on what's in the best interest of the patient, we win. That's my team.
Wonderful. You were also a board president for a nonprofit community group, right? And you made a lot of changes there.
Yes.
What was it about? And I mean, what kind of changes you made there and how it was?
So it was a local community sports team in ice hockey. And
Nice.
Yeah, and it was large and competitive. But what we were finding is that the facility we were had our growing membership within was not stable. We were finding challenges with the sports facility, et cetera. So I moved, the board, myself, and the membership moved over to a state-of-the-art facility. And we negotiated really well to get in and get into this new state-of-the-art facility. They were happy to have us. But shortly after we were there, they changed our fee schedule. And the ramifications of that were that we became now in a sports team that was really about only the upper class who could afford to skate there. And that wasn't our mission. And so I had to identify another facility that wasn't as grand as the new one we had. Everybody loved the new facility, but I had to take the team to a step down facility. And instead of going into a facility where we no longer had control of fees or the conditions, we negotiated to buy that facility using angel investors. So I was able to go out into the community, talk about the importance of enabling all children the opportunity, not based on what your families can afford, but enabling all children to be able to participate, and how important it is that the facilities are in the conditions that help keep children safe and enable them to play consistently. So that's the change, out of a facility into a new wow, and then having to move us to a step down, but enabling, everybody to have the opportunity to play.
So another question. You are a graduate of University of Wisconsin, and you had a bachelor's degree in nuclear medicine technology, right?
Yes.
How from there you came here? Of course, it's somehow like related, but
yes.
when
So early in
do
my
you miss that?
so in nuclear medicine, when go through your academic studies, the last year is in an internship. So you are in a teaching facility where both your classroom and your clinical rotations are all in the same location. So having completed my degree, they then hired me on. So I started my career in a teaching facility. Quickly was teaching other students that were coming up, newer generations. One of the things that I was exposed to early, even from the time I was a student, was working on clinical trials with radiopharmaceuticals. And so we were developing radiopharmaceuticals to develop or to find infections in the body using white cells. We would extract white cells and process them and re-inject. We did a lot of heart research with radiopharmaceuticals. So doing that kind of research was something that I started in the industry with. As my career was taking off, I started to do more and more teaching. I taught college seniors out of the University of Wisconsin, and then out of a women's college in Alverno College, which is in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I got to a place where I was mostly doing teaching, started a school of diagnostic ultrasound, took it through the accreditation process in the US, and got to a place where I felt like I could do it in my sleep. Like, anatomy, physiology, pathophysiology doesn't really change. The radiopharmaceuticals were, but methodologies and how it was working, I felt like it was time for a change. So I found a startup company. I networked, found a startup company in clinical research. There's a lot of lessons there. I almost turned down the interview because nuclear medicine degreed individuals usually end up at GE, General Electric, at least where I was living. And everybody wanted to be at GE. So I was, interviewing at GE as well. But this startup company called me and offered me a job, and I took it. 3 weeks later, my dream job at GE was offered to me. And, I was raised in a world where my parents, taught me once you make a commitment, you live with that commitment. And so I I said no to GE and I stayed in this startup company. The startup company was a site management organization where I got to learn a lot about the grassroots of what happens at investigator sites, doing clinical research. I represented them with pharma and sales, etc. I grew my career, got to a place where I was raising money with VCs, private equity, did some acquisitions. Eventually, I transformed the company to a CRO, grew it, sold it to one of the top CROs in the world, stayed there for a while, and then came over to Advanced Clinical. And I came to Advanced Clinical because of our differentiators. I wanted to be in a place where I could make a difference in drug development, where the patient mattered first, the employees mattered first, doing good research mattered first, above the financials.
Wonderful story. Thank you for sharing. You received a lot of awards. In general, what's the most important for you as a like recognition, the award or something like that, what you would like to mention? What was the most important, significant for you?
I think the most significant for me about any of the awards I've won is about the recognition that the work I'm doing is meaningful. And it's about the work I'm doing. It's not about me. It's the work that I'm able to do. It's making an impact. That's why I think we all get up every day, is to make an impact. And knowing that, peers in the industry have recognized me for the impact makes me continue to want to do more and more. The Red Jacket Award is always, Pharma Voice recognized the top 100 most inspiring people in the world of pharmaceuticals. The Red Jacket Award is when you win it 3 times in a row. That's meaningful, not because it's an award that gives me kudos. It's meaningful that multiple years in a world of pharmaceuticals, the impact I'm making is there. And that's critically important.
It resonates with people, right?
It resonates with people. It's not you puffing your chest. It's not you trying and banging your head against the wall. It is recognized that it's you're making a difference. And at Advanced Clinical, that's what we're all about, is making a difference, right? Make a difference. Go make a difference every single day. As a human being, that's that's what we're expected to do, right? Make a difference in people's lives.
Yes. I think that's the most important meaning of the life, right? To make every day to make the life of others a little bit better.
Exactly.
What would be your advice for the young people as a well-known leader who have accomplished a lot? I mean, for the young people out there who are thinking, to become future leaders, what would be your advice, your recipe?
We have a lot of interns that rotate throughout our organization. And my number one thing is develop your skill of resilience and grit. Today, I think too often people give up too easily. It gets hard, I make a change, right? In our personal lives, we do this. Somebody offends us, something's hard, a relationship is hard, we give up and we move on. Resilience and grit are key skill sets to learn early. The world of clinical research is tough. There are a lot of failures. There are a lot of learnings. We can't just give up. People need us. People need you as a younger generation coming in. You are the lifeline to the generations that are serving today. You're going to be the ones that solve the diseases of tomorrow, the diseases that I'll probably have that are unsolved, right? The diseases of people who are aging out that are yet to be solved. You are those people. If you give up because it got hard, if you give up because you stumbled and fell, if you give up because somebody didn't talk to you the right way, the way you wanted to be talked to, the world suffers. Your resilience and grit to know it's not about you. It's not about you. It's about the people we serve. And that's been my message over the last 2 to 3 years. Coming into the world, it is not about you as an individual. You're here to serve the world and make the world a better place. And you need resilience and grit. That's
Thank
my
you so
message.
much. Thank you so much, Julie. It was like so inspirational and amazing interview, and I just like enjoyed it. And you
Thank you.
really
Thank
made it.
you.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
It was a great pleasure. Is there anything else you would like to add before we close?
I don't think there's anything else I would add. I would say thank you to all the work you're doing. I think getting the message out on leadership, getting the message out on drug development, oncology, the world of oncology, how it's changing is so complex, is so critically important. And I'm grateful. Your first magazine here was incredible, incredible. And I appreciated it very much. And I look forward to seeing more of it.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much, Julie. Thanks a lot.
Great. All right.
Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to OncoDaily on YouTube. Hit the bell icon to stay updated.